My name is Lance Rubin from Model Citizen. We're going to be running a few of these to really try and help the financial modeling and finance professionals out there get a handle on the benefits of some of the latest and most cutting edge technology and tools around financial modeling and decision making. Today, I'm going to take you through one of our first ones that we built called a social benefit bond model for the purpose of dealing with homelessness around. So I guess that's quite a social focused topic and something that obviously still exists today across the world. So we're going to walk you through why we built it, what we built, and how we built it in the typical Simon Sinek sort of way for each of these videos, so you can get an understanding of the purpose of it and what is entailed. And a lot of this is actually not as complex as you might think. There's no coding in here. It's using Excel, it's using PowerPoint, and it's using another interface called Modeler. So I'm going to quickly talk you through this purpose of this model. So this was a cohort group, and basically the cohort that we were going through ranged from teenagers all the way up to aged there were adults as well. And each of these members of this group had different impacts on society as they worked through the program. There was a non-for-profit a social benefit provider who provided a range of social work, care, accommodation, and a range of other support features and services to this cohort, and that hopefully resulted in them becoming a valued contributing member of society. So we enable this model so that we could have variable discussions on changes in that cohort group. So if we wanted to drop teenagers, for example, and focus on older people, we could do that, and certainly that would have an impact in the total. It also impact the cost, and you'll see later, and the benefit of everything. Of course, the earlier we catch it, the benefit is substantiated or substantially more later on in life, as opposed to the benefit for someone who's older. They're not really going to contribute as much to society. So to get a higher benefit, you might want to target younger people. So again, this was all about the interactive conversation we were having without having to look at the Excel model, but then we could really flip through and go through. We can actually make some changes to each of the numbers down here as well. So when you want to look at the program, so here we have those various costs I was speaking about. There's a current cost, there's a justice cost, 2-year justice cost, there's future adult costs, so costs for adults that won't be as relevant, but for kids that's quite substantial. And then there's wider social and economic costs, hospitals and other facilities that will put the society under pressure, and healthcare as well, broader healthcare. And so what we were trying to do is deal to the level of homelessness within the cohort. So if we only lowered homelessness by 4%, the cost benefit ratio was pretty low. But as we started to creep that up, we started to get multiple times the cost of the program to the benefit. And that's kind of what we want to achieve. So I think given that some of these costs are back-ended, of course, this multiplier needed to be higher. So these are the avoided costs against the actual costs, and we compare those two. So this was a very important driver to really see the performance of the overall program and for people. Then the government wanted to understand, and also the investors and the bank who was facilitating the lead arrangement of the bond issuance, to understand the impact of this bond, how much costs were being funded by the government, what happens if the bond terminated. So if we terminated the bond, obviously didn't run the full program, but there was some termination costs, which is why the bond size goes up. So here we said the bond size was 3. And of course, none of these numbers are the actual numbers. This is purely for demonstration purposes. So we sized the bond 3.9 million based on a termination. We had to assume that ideally we didn't want to terminate, but if we did, there was enough money to cover termination. If the program ran the full period, we don't need as much because the termination costs are not there, and you can see the program running. So we can see, what are the total costs that are refunded by government, percentage up front, and then how much of that is funded by the bond. And the benefits to government, again, going back to the benefit as opposed to the program costs. And then we can see the benefit here for the bond investors who put in money up front, and then they, effectively that's 3.9 million, and then, get some repayments at the end and a little bit of a coupon initially. So 2.5% coupon, not a fantastic return, But of course, we can have a look at that. We only got a 14% homelessness rate in terms of the impact. But if we sort of ramp that up to around 50%, so let's just type in here 50%, what that'll do is it's obviously not going to change this bond. This is still going to be a $3.9 million bond, but the outcomes of that bond will benefit investors. So now they're getting an 8.5% coupon. You can see the interest repayments coming through, and that's certainly a better result overall. So we can start making this interactive. So why did we do it? We did it so we could help all these different parties who've got different competing priorities negotiate. We wanted to help everyone understand the complexity associated with a bond to people that were non-financial, and that's quite important. And ultimately, we wanted to see what impact that would have on society and who was that going to be attributed to, which areas of society was the program going to target, and if we change that, what impact did that have, and how successful the program needed to be in order to cover the costs. So having a 10 times return or 12 times return, of course, you can change that dynamically without having to go back into Excel. So that's the why we did it. The how we did it is built a three-way model. We built it in Medano and we visualized it in Modeler. So if I open the model, I'll just bring it across here. It's a three-way model built in Medano, and it's got a typical table of contents and outputs and assumptions. So this allowed us to be dynamic around the creation of this model, whilst we still can deal with the beautiful output. So we didn't need to show that, but of course we needed a very powerful decision-making engine, being Excel, to really help us through that process. So how we did it is really in collaboration with our client, the bank, and the government, around understanding all their decisions and the key logic around some of this. A lot of this was data-driven, of course, like most models, and understanding the impacts of the different costs associated with running a program, the expenses over time, people, accommodation, and what impact that would have. And then this is the income that was generated to government. They wanted to understand what did that mean for them. But of course, some of that was back-ended towards the end of the program. So really trying to understand that. So I hope everyone's benefit from that. We're going to share more and more of this and how we've applied financial modeling in the current state in terms of the technology that's around. And stay tuned for more. Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye.